tuned in to Followers of the Way, where you get that raw, uncut, and unadulterated truth. Stay tuned. Shalom and greetings to all the family out there scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. As always, I greet all of y'all in the one and only true name of our Father, the Creator, the All Shaddai, the Honorable Abba Yahuwah. And this morning, as you can see, I got my get on gear up. I'm getting ready to get out here in traffic and make some runs and stuff. But I didn't want to get out in traffic before answering a question that a lot of people have been asking me. Okay, now the question that's been put to me is, what is the correct biblical interpretation of adultery, or infidelity as people call it today, or cheating or what have you? What is the correct biblical interpretation? Now, I believe that this is a very good question, okay? And the reason why this is a very good question is because the question that was put forth was, what is the correct biblical interpretation, okay? Now, that's the key word right there, the correct biblical interpretation, because, see, the day what we have to be mindful of is that we're living in a time where people adopt to different customs and traditions, and once they have adapted to these traditions and customs, they then believe that it's law, or they find some way to try to work or construct it until into the book, and try to bring forth biblical interpretations. But a lot of these biblical interpretations that they bring forth is has a lot of fallacies in it, okay? Because they, number one, they have not really studied Tanakh to really understand what the word of the Most High is. A lot of people have been programmed from coming out of a lot of these churches to just read the Old Testament. This is all you need. That's fulfilled already. Don't worry about that, okay? And so this is where a lot of people fall into trouble, because if you don't go back and understand what the word of the Most High is, then how do you even know what was in the Old Testament was fulfilled anyway? You see what I'm saying? So these are the things that people are running into. But let me answer the question, and it's a very simple thing to understand. And the first thing that we need to be mindful of is that when we go into the book, right? When we go into the book, and let's do this. I'm gonna go to Deuteronomy. I'm gonna go to Deuteronomy 22, right? Okay. So now we already know, right? Okay, that when you look at the commandments, okay, you go to Exodus chapter 20, and read the commandments, the 10 commandments and whatnot. You can see in there that one of the commandments is, thou shalt not commit adultery. Okay, thou shalt not commit adultery. Okay, so you can go there and look at that. Okay, but we have to break down and analyze what is adultery according to biblical interpretation. Okay, and it's important to understand this, because if you don't understand what the biblical interpretation of adultery is, then you're going to run out here, and in every situation, and it may not be adultery, then you're running around saying, oh, well, my husband, he committed adultery on me, or what have you. Okay, so let's look at this here. So we go to Deuteronomy 22, and like I said, you can go to Exodus 20 to see the commandments. I don't want to waste time going there, but you can go there. But if we go to Deuteronomy chapter 22, and we look at verse 22, it says, if a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband. Okay, now we know that word married, when we go underneath the scriptures, means possessed or owned by a man, a master. Okay, because we got to get beneath these English translations. So basically, if a woman is owned by a man, it's her possession. Okay, in modern day times, people get married or whatnot, so it's basically equivalent to that, right? It says then they shall both of them die, both the man that lie with the woman and the woman. So shall thou put away evil from Israel. Okay? So the scriptures is helping us to understand that adultery is classified as a man sleeping with a woman that's married. Okay, this is an adultery. Okay, go with me to Leviticus chapter 20 real quick. Okay, Leviticus chapter 20, and if you look at verse 10, it says, "And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife." So the scriptures is bringing out that adultery is committed when a man sleeps with another man's wife. Okay, now why is this important to understand? Because if you are in a marriage, okay, and I want you to understand this and listen closely, okay, understand this and listen closely to what I'm getting ready to say. If a man is in a marriage and he's married to a woman, okay, and that man decides to sleep with another woman or take a concubine or whatever, however you want to classify it, side piece, mistress, whatever the case may be, and that woman is not married, then you have to understand that that's not adultery. Okay? So, and why is this important to understand? Because you will tend to hear women running out saying, well, I left this situation or this because the guy that was with my husband or whatever, he committed adultery. He was unfaithful for me. And the first question that I always want to know, whenever I'm ministering or counseling people, is, was this woman married that the man slept with? If the woman is not married, it's not adultery. See, this understanding comes from European programming. When they gave you this pagan religion, they hardwired you with these concepts. But we know that this is not the correct biblical interpretation, because let's just, and there's many places I can go, but let's go somewhere that a lot of you may not be familiar with. I want to go to an account real quick. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 24. 2 Chronicles chapter 24. And I'm going to start reading at verse 1. It says, Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Zibiah of Beersheba, and Joash did that which was right in the sight of Yahuwah all the days of Jehoiada the priest. Now this Jehoiada was the high priest during this time period. Okay, and it says right here, and Jehoiada took for him 2 wives, and he begat sons and daughters. So what we see here is that if we understand adultery as it was laid down in biblical times, that understanding and interpretation is not the same interpretation that people have today whenever they're in relationships. Okay, because women believe that if they're in a relationship and a man sleeps with another woman, that's an adultery, and that's grounds to leave their to basically vacate and leave their relationships, and that's not the case. You see, the scriptures is very clear on this. The woman has to be married that this man sleeps with in order to commit adultery. You see, and we would think that if the understanding that people are bringing forth today is the correct interpretation, now here's Jehoiada, the high priest, the man that spoke on behalf of the entire nation of Israel. Don't you think that this man understands the law that the Father laid down, and that if it was just one man and one wife, that this would be going against the rules and regulations of the Most High? You see, now if you look here, this man was so honorable. Listen to this. Let's go down. Let's slide down to verse 15 right here. It says, but Jehoiada waxed old and was full of days when he died, and 130 years old was he when he died. And they buried him in the city of David amongst the kings, because he had done good in Israel, both towards Elohim and towards his house. So this priest was so honorable that they buried him in there with the kings. Okay, so we would think that if this guy is the high priest for the children of the Most High, that he would understand what the laws and regulations is. Okay, so that interpretation is a modern day interpretation. This is an American interpretation, because even in places around the world, you know, you start to go to Africa, you start to go to the East and places like that, they still follow these traditions. They still take multiple wives and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So this is not something that's new. And you have to be mindful that it's in man's nature to be man, to be a man, and do these types of things. This is why you see right now how you can have all of these people in the church. This is a predominantly Christian nation. Everybody say they're Christians and this and that, but you still see these things going on. Why? Because it's in man's nature to do these things. Nobody is slowing down. The people in the church, the people that's not in the church, it's just nobody is following that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be careful when we start trying to bound people with things that's not in the book. You see, when you go and you start speaking of adultery and you're trying to bind people to the book, then you got to bring forth the correct interpretation of what that word actually means. Now, if you want to bring forth something else and come up with your own stuff, I have no problem with that. But just don't do it in the name of the book. You know, when you start talking adultery, understand exactly what adultery is. And the scriptures is very clear, okay? There's men that had multiple wives, had concubines, all type of stuff, and none of these people were penalized for adultery. You see? So the scriptures is very clear on adultery, and I'm glad that the person that asked that question brought that forth, because see, this is the type of information that we have to get out to the people, because this stuff that's coming out of these churches, out of these pulpits, and a lot of these and from the congregations of these super Christians, these people that want to be Hebrews, they want to, they want to blend this and there and that, all these weak, watered down people. And like I said, share this video, get this video out there to whoever you need to get it to. You know what I'm saying? Because see, when you have done the level, and I'm not trying to be cocky or nothing like that, but when you have done the level of research that I have done on things, it's just like the fornication thing. They had us handcuffed and chained and tied with the fornication and this and that. And then I did the teaching on the fornication and broke it down and showed you that that's a word that's made up. It has no place in the scriptures whatsoever. Because the word that they using to translate that word fornication that they're using to translate the Greek word porneia doesn't even mean sex outside of marriage and all this stuff they come with. Speaking about prostitution. Come on, man. Any day, anytime. Any of these preachers, pastors, however they want to do it, they just tell them pull up. You know what I'm saying? Whatever kind, when you send this information out to these preachers, pastors, or your teachers or whatever, you know what they're gonna say? They're gonna say, well, brother or sister, it's just whenever you do that, there's a lot of problems with that. So it's just, you should just have one wife and all of this other garbage. But that's opinion. That's not biblical. So they can talk all that stuff all day they want. So I wanted to take some time. I didn't want to take up a whole lot of y'all time. I wanted to answer that question. And if you got any more questions, just email, send it to me, and I'll do some quick videos like this and get them out to the people. You know what I'm saying? So y'all enjoy your day, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Shalom.